In this video, I tell the story of how three old men managed to rob a bank and deceive the FBI. The film begins with Joe Harding coming to the bank. The old man takes a pager at the reception desk and sits down on a chair. The pager vibrated. Joe is already old, and it's even a bit difficult for him to move around. The old man goes to manager Chuck and asks why his mortgage payment increased 3 times. When signing the contract, the manager said that the probability of a rate increase was negligible.
You sold me this crap.
Joe is very upset because he lives with his daughter and granddaughter and they cannot lose their home. The manager tries to calm him down, saying this is just a yellow notice. But the old man understands that they are deceiving him, and the bank will most likely take his house, though not in the near future. 3 masked robbers burst into the bank. They tell all visitors to lie on their backs.
Oh my God, what did I do?
Joe is already old, and the robber allows him to just sit. He also decides to give away his last money, so that he definitely won't be touched. And at that moment, he notices a tattoo on the bandit's neck. Learning the old man's story, the robber heads to Chuck and takes his wallet. The robbers leave and ask no one to call the police for 90 seconds. And Chuck, by this time, pissed himself from fear. Later, Joe gives testimony, talking about the tattoo on the robber's neck. He suggests finding the tattoo salon that made this tattoo in order to track down the criminals this way. The FBI agent treats him with irony, but thanks him for cooperation. Joe's daughter comes to pick him up with her daughter. The granddaughter is very interested to learn more about the robbers. She asks about their height and is interested in the tattoo. But the daughter really doesn't like this and asks them to be quiet. In the evening, the old man watches the news, which talks about what happened. The FBI agent talks about the need to find the tattoo artist. Joe remembers that the agent himself laughed at his idea, but now appropriated his words. The news also shows a sketch of the tattoo, so that people who recognize the author of the work can contact the authorities. Joe, together with his friends Willie Davis and Albert Garner, discusses the robbery. The robbers managed to take almost $2 million from the bank. And the FBI has no leads. The old men were very impressed by the robbers' work, because they did everything very quickly. They all received notices from the pension department of the factory, where they all once worked together for 30 years. At the general meeting of all factory workers, they learn that the factory is closing. All production is moving to Vietnam. Now their pension will be frozen for an indefinite period. Sitting in a diner, the old men try to decide what to do. The waitress, as usual, approaches them and asks whether to bring them a piece of pie as usual. But the old men refuse, saying they are watching their figure. Although in reality, they understand that now they need to save on everything.
Well, don't tie up my table all day. I gotta make a living here.
Joe has been thinking about the robbery all day. His friends joke with him a little. And then the waitress brings them pie on the house. The friends are watching TV. But late in the evening, Joe leaves, saying he needs to take a pill. But coming home, he finds a new notice from the bank, this time red, which says that his housing will be taken away in a month. At another dialysis procedure, the doctor says he needs to find a kidney donor as soon as possible, since due to age and insurance, the man is at the very end of the transplant queue. The chances of a donor appearing on their own are practically zero. The doctor suggests he talk to his daughter about this. Willie promises to ask relatives. At home, he calls his daughter and granddaughter on Skype. They sent him a gift in the mail. There was a shirt and a photo of his granddaughter. He is very proud of her and never dared to tell about his illness. Albert works with a teenager, teaching him to play the saxophone. The guy can't do anything, the student doesn't like the saxophone, and Albert suggests not to torture himself, to which the fat boy says that instead, he wants to dance. Leaving the student's house, Albert talks with his grandmother Annie, who shows the old man signs of attention, telling that she saw his performance together with the famous jazz musician Stan Getz in the 70s. Joe picks up his granddaughter from school. She insists that she can already return home by herself and shows him her biology test, which she wrote very well. She also reminds her grandfather that he promised to buy her a puppy if she would be an excellent student. Today is Willie's birthday. He was very surprised by his friend's gift, a watch with a photo of his granddaughter. After all, the friends had so little money left. The old man immediately puts them on. Suddenly, Joe says that he is thinking about robbing the bank. The friends joke with him a little, and then Joe shows him the red notice from the bank. Now they are taking his house away from him. These banks destroyed the country and the dreams of many people. Joe talks about the robbery. They are three old men who have practically nothing to lose. If the robbery succeeds, they can provide for their old age and help their families. Even if they are caught, they will have 3 meals a day and good medical care. Al doesn't like this idea at all. Joe immediately gives the example of those bandits whose robbery was right in front of him, to which Willie answers him that they are already too old for this.
We got skills, experience, smarts.
They bring Willie a big cake. All the old men gathered and congratulate him. Joe asks him to make a wish, and Willie thought, but eventually blew out the candle. In the evening, the friends call, and the old man tells Joe about his wish. Willie starts thinking about the robbery. The friends agree to take only what they were owed, but they only need to convince Albert.
I don't have a problem with dying. I just don't want to do it in prison.
The next day, the friends decided to rehearse their robbery, and they decided to start with the grocery store where Annie works. Willie and Joe leave Al in the car, but he goes after them anyway, and then Annie immediately notices him, who starts helping with choosing products and hints at her sympathy. She even starts carrying the basket instead of him, to which the old man convinces her that he doesn't want any relationships. At this time, Joe starts putting products directly into his jacket. This immediately attracts the attention of security. He even accidentally knocks over a shelf with ham. The old men run out of the store with the loot and quickly run to the car. As it turns out that driver Albert is not there, and that means they won't be able to immediately escape from the crime scene. Joe steals an electric scooter for disabled people. He suggests Willie leave on it. He refuses. But as soon as he hears the guard's whistle, he immediately jumps into the basket. At this moment, Albert comes out of the store, the guard starts chasing him, and the old man starts running away from him. At this moment, the old men start throwing out products to reduce the weight of the cart and even spill flour. As here, a bus almost hits them. The old men miraculously manage to stop, and the guard catches up with them. All their actions were caught on cameras, but the store manager forgives the unsuccessful thieves because they are already very old. He decides to give coupons so that the old men can buy goods at discounts. He tells them not to steal, and if they do steal, not in his store. Albert is very unhappy that he was made an accomplice to the robbery. He doesn't even let them get in the car. He also laughs at the fact that the old men couldn't even normally steal a couple of products.
I hate when he's right.
And then Joe decides to go to Murphy. This is his daughter's husband, and they ask him to bring them to a person who would help them with the robbery. Old man Albert comes to the supermarket again, where he meets Annie. He once again makes her understand that he is not looking for a relationship, but the woman insists that this is not a reason to deny yourself pleasure. They have dinner and spend the night together. The next day, the friends again agree to meet at the cafe. At this time, Willie reads the news in the newspaper. Pension savings are being withdrawn by the very same bank that is going to take Joe's house. All three friends used this bank's services for many years, but now found out that their own bank is stealing their pension. This was the last straw, and eventually Al agrees to the robbery. By this time, Willie managed to buy something so that he would be introduced to the bandit who could help with the robbery. The next day, they come to Jesus, the owner of a pet store, and at the same time, a professional criminal. The old men promise him 25% of the profit and at the same time no risk. After all, they will take all the work only on themselves. Jesus tries to dissuade the old men from this idea, but as soon as he learns that Joe's house and pension are being taken away, he immediately agrees.
You gonna help us?
Mañana.
Sitting in a pub, the friends discuss who will live, how long. They also discuss what amount to take from the bank. Joe calculates exactly how much money was stolen from them and says that if they manage to take out more, then the difference will be donated to charity with Jesus' help. The friends need to rob the bank for a little more than $1 million. The next day, they make a robbery plan. Jesus immediately didn't like that they are robbing a bank where they themselves are registered. Thus, they violate the first rule. They make robbery plans, find out the location of cameras, prepare transport for withdrawal, and do sports to improve their physical form and not look like old men. And the most important point was to prepare an alibi so that there would be no suspicion on the old men. As a result, they become volunteers at the fair. The old men even learn to shoot weapons. But this shouldn't be useful to them because this is a scenario for the worst case. The day before the robbery, Willie and Joe cannot sleep, but Albert sleeps. The friends agree that upon the arrival of cops, they immediately surrender and no one should get hurt. 6 o'clock in the morning, Joe gets up and teaches his son-in-law to cook breakfast. The old man also tells his daughter that today her father will pick her up from school. It is very hard for the old man to say goodbye to his granddaughter, because he understands that he might end up in prison. The son-in-law lastly tries to dissuade him, but Joe insists on his own and tells his son-in-law that now he needs to become a real father to his daughter. The old men have already come to the fair. Albert makes cotton candy and asks another old man to replace him. And so the friends quietly left the fair and are going to the robbery. Joe gives his friends pistols with blank cartridges so that definitely no one gets hurt. The men put on masks, block the doors, and shoot in the air. All visitors sharply lie on the floor from fright. Someone even faints from fear. The old men approach and take all the money. At this moment, a little girl offers to take her doll. At this moment, Willie got distracted, and the manager manages to press the silent alarm. The old man doesn't know about this yet and decides to calm her down. He talks about his granddaughter. Suddenly he feels bad or falls to the floor. The little girl almost removes the mask from the man. She also notices on Willie's hand those very same watch with a photo of his granddaughter on the dial. The police are already going to the crime scene. The manager reaches the gun that the guard threw on the floor. The manager threatens the friends and demands they lie on the floor. Joe, in response, threatens him, but the manager eventually shoots, releases the entire clip, although doesn't hit once. This really angered the old man, and he decided to scare the manager with blank cartridges.
You're blanks, you dipshit!
The old men quickly leave on the bus. Just by the time the police arrived, they managed to leave, so they were very lucky. As a result, they managed to take $2 million from the bank. Each old man returns back by a different route. In the evening, the friends celebrate the successful robbery in an expensive restaurant. Albert even decides to play on stage on the saxophone. Having drunk quite a bit, they return home singing songs, but Willie suddenly feels bad again, and they even call an ambulance for him. Meanwhile, the FBI is already investigating the robbery. The moment when the girl almost removed Willie's mask clearly got on camera. Thus, they understood that the robbers are most likely over 70 years old. The action moves to the hospital. The doctor tells the friends that Willie has kidney failure, and he urgently needs a kidney donor. Meanwhile, in the ward, the old man watches the news. The bank manager gives an interview, telling that the robbers were very young and agile as they managed to dodge all the bullets. He boasts about his heroic act, although we remember how it really was. Albert is indignant that Willie didn't tell his friends about the need for a transplant, and Joe says he is ready to give his kidney right now. The case is led by the same FBI agent as in the previous bank robbery. He says that the robbers were old men. Meanwhile, the store manager, from which the three friends tried to take out products, decided to call the FBI himself. He compared the recordings from surveillance cameras and realized that not only the height and weight of the suspects match, but also the gait.
I believe there's a reward.
Meanwhile, the FBI is already detaining the friends. They came for Al, right to Annie's apartment. They even came for Willie in the hospital. And they came for Joe right at the moment when he was watching his granddaughter's baseball game. The FBI agents interrogate all three friends about what they were doing on the day of the robbery. They tell how they woke up, had breakfast, and then worked at the fair. Witness statements are also collected from the waitress in the diner. Albert says that during the robbery, he was in the toilet, as he has serious intestinal problems. Joe was selling tickets at the cash register, and Willie was working in the haunted house, scaring visitors. After the robbery, Albert melted the masks and pistols in the workshop at the factory, and then returned to the toilet through the setback wall and exited through the door as he entered. This was just caught on surveillance camera. At this moment, Joe took a taxi to Jesus and handed him bags with money. The old man returned the stolen transport to the place, and they all returned to their work at the fair. The robbers got on cameras, thus were able to provide themselves with an alibi. But then the FBI agent decides to use the last trick. He brought a large number of old men into the hall, and they brought that girl who almost took off Willie's mask. The girl slowly approaches each old man and stops a little at Willie. His watch immediately catches her eye, on which his granddaughter is depicted. She calls the FBI agent, but she just tells him that she doesn't see the robbers here. The agent was very surprised by this, and even asked her about it several times. Lastly, the girl smiled at the old man. Also, at the moment when she was leaving, she met just that very same girl who was depicted on the watch. She immediately recognized her, and they started smiling at each other. It's raining outside. Joe is sitting in the diner. Jesus comes to him with a large basket, in which was a puppy. After all, the old man at the beginning of the film promised his granddaughter to buy him if she studies well. Jesus says that he made all the vaccinations. Joe asks the old man, did he take his share from the robbery? To which he answers no.
It is a culture's duty to take care of its elderly.
Joe immediately remembers that robber who said exactly the same phrase at the beginning of the film. He also asks Jesus where the tattoo went, to which he answers that it was drawn with henna specifically in order to confuse the investigation and send it on a false trail.
That's a tragedy.
At this moment, the FBI agent enters the diner, and Joe quietly warns Jesus about this. However, the agent just brings Joe his wallet, which he left in the evidence storage. The old man asks the agent how he found him.
That's what I do.
The agent asks if Joe is really getting a puppy for himself, and asks to look at him, saying that he loves dogs very much, and he doesn't notice that money is attached to the roof of the carrier. But then the dog bites him.
You little son of a bitch.
Joe says it's time to take the puppy home before the granddaughter returns from school. The waitress approaches the table. She grumbles that Joe again left her a tip in change, but under the note lies $10,000. The money also goes to the community center, where the friends spent time in the company of other pensioners. Willie urgently undergoes a kidney transplant operation. The donor was Albert. Seeing how Brooklyn rejoices over Joe's puppy reflects that in life, if you're lucky, you can meet a couple of good friends, those who will be with you until the last day together. Annie and Albert even manage to get married. Everyone raises glasses to their happiness. Everyone dances, and even Annie's grandson, that fat boy, decides to dance for them. The three friends talk on the bridge, looking at the celebration. Albert complains that he didn't understand how he ended up married. He doesn't even remember when he proposed. But in the end, he understands that he became happy.